Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please. Adam?
Grant.
Here.
Iverson, Hutton, Polash, Poppy.
Here.
Dankert, Bosco John.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We're good.
All right. Motion to approve. Go ahead.
Is Terry on? You said Dan?
Mark Dankert.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What's Terry's last name?
Grenard.
Does it start with a G?
Grenard.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're the council rep and Doug's the backup rep.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think
You're good. You're fine.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Lance, seconded by John. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the January 19th, or July 19th meeting? What the dinks?
Did we get him?
I don't think we got 'em.
I don't have any in my packet.
Did I miss them?
I don't see them.
Move that to the next.
Push that to the next meeting? All right, so we will push that off till next meeting. So moving right into our first action item, a public hearing with a conditional use permit for Jeffrey Darrington
Yes.
at 508 Van Dyke Avenue for a parking area. Time is 7:01. I will open the public hearing. Are you Jeffrey?
Yes.
Would you like to just give us a brief synopsis of what you're asking for?
Like to transfer it to my.
Sure.
My son.
Basically, just looking for an extra space to park. I didn't, I guess, look too much into what you guys, the area before we moved into Ripon area. And with the winter coming and whatnot, can't park on the streets. Well, just need extra space for work rig to basically park off the street in the winter time, and then in the summer camper, boat to clean out and whatnot during the summer after weekend excursions.
Okay. And is this a side-by-side duplex, basically?
Yep.
Okay. And you're looking at expanding both sides of the driveway?
Yeah, we might not on 506, we still discussing that, I guess, at the moment.
So immediately on 508
Yeah.
and getting approval for 506, work to be done in the future?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's no one else here from the public. Is there any questions from commission members?
I have a question. Is it just a two-car garage that splits the two units? I didn't drive by. I should
It's-
have drove by. Or is it?
It's one car garages, and then the garages is what splits the units, I guess.
Okay, so it's like for
Two single-car
Two
garages.
single-car garages. Okay.
Okay.
So the driveway is only that width right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see it on the picture. Okay.
Anyone else have questions?
Just clarifying the request. This is 508 Van Dyke Avenue. Are we just talking about 508 and not 506? Just so we clarify.
It's drawn on both
I
sides.
see that.
Yeah.
I
Are
see.
As a-
you the
yeah.
owners of both properties? or
Yeah,
just
I'm on one side, he's on the other. He's
Okay.
at 506, I'm at 508.
Okay. And that, I don't care, but it just needs to be clear to the plan commission what you're requesting.
Okay, so the application does state just 508. Can we amend that to cover both tonight?
If that's the wishes of the property owners, they're here, I don't know that that would be a problem, given the way it's set out in neighbor and
Yeah,
not
that's,
in that area.
yeah, we could do 506 and 8, sure.
That, in my opinion, just saves you from having to come back.
Come back.
get approval
It's
for
one,
506.
it's one parcel. The applicant put on one parcel, two addresses on one parcel. It doesn't impact who we send it out to. And on the drawing, it has one in front of both. So I think
So that it is one parcel for both?
it is one parcel,
addresses, okay.
yes.
And then when I did write it out for them, it says each side of each unit of duplex.
That's the way you wrote it.
So there's no property line splitting the house?
Not that
Okay.
I'm aware of.
And if you don't do it, so be it. You know, that's up to you, but
Okay.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Will it be gravel?
That'd be the initial. Sometime, I would give or take the next 2 years, we'd probably do, because right now, the original driveway's asphalt, would like it to be concrete, but it's gonna take some time and funding and whatnot, of course. So, yeah, once we make the original initial would be gravel, but then once we transition everything, it'll all be concrete at some point.
Do we have zoning that has to be blacktop or concrete?
I believe it's just the approach has to be
I thought-
paved.
It's just
I thought there is something.
I thought it was something in a certain grade. If it's over a certain grade, it has to be concrete or blacktop. But Adam's gonna check.
I thought, reading through, I thought it just said any, I guess, hard.
The approach has to be concrete.
Mhm.
And that, yeah, I'm sure that is.
Well, again, we're here on a conditional use, however, okay? So you're asking to vary from the code. That's what a conditional use is. So the discussion is legitimate to say, what is the surface going to be? And obviously, the timing thing could be included, but I would think that there needs to be a shorter time than 2 years, that it would be impervious, finished surface. I just think that's good practice. You're gonna grant conditional use to go into the front space. It isn't there now, and it's before this body as a conditional use. I don't think you want to start the precedent that you say just throw some gravel down and call it a driveway, because others have done that without getting a permit. And if you're asking to get a permit, you gotta comply, in my mind. Those would be my thoughts, at least. Unless somebody can point me to where. And again, it doesn't matter if you point me there, it's a conditional use.
I think we put this in the ordinance because people were just parking on the lawn in the front
Exactly.
yard.
Mhm.
And they didn't have no gravel or nothing down it, they were just parking on the grass.
Exactly. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, and that's why
If you're asking-
that's why it got changed.
Right.
And from the perspective of a driveway, this is not defined as a driveway, this area,
Which area?
the area in which we're talking about. It's a parking area. Driveways require that there is
Oh, there is.
pavement
Okay.
or some sort of surface, but this is not, I do not believe it's addressed. I'll just look at the actual code for this section, which is 20 point.
I think it's an ADR one.
I think we addressed
It seems like.
the side, if we go to the side of a driveway, I think we addressed that and it had to be concrete. And it could come back so far and then angle back to the approach
They
at the
create
road.
another space.
Servicing all driveways and open off-street parking areas shall be surfaced with bituminous or concrete. Section 20.52060-2A, D2A.
Okay.
So it will need to be,
Does it give a timeline?
does not give a time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would a timeline of, say, a year from the approval for paving it?
Sure. Shouldn't be an issue. Say we're trying to do windows and siding next spring. And yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something.
A lot of other stuff, but yeah, that shouldn't be an issue a year from today if it's approved.
Okay. Any more questions before I close the public hearing? All right, public hearing is closed at 7:10. Now, discussion amongst commission or motions?
I like the idea of giving them a year. I mean, it should sit 4 or 5 months anyways, if you're taking off black dirt and you're putting some gravel, just for a solid base anyways, so I think a year is plenty, I don't have a problem with that as long as we follow up. I don't know how that procedure happens, but,
I'll put it on my calendar.
okay. That's good enough for me.
It's a conditional use, that'll sunset.
No, we do make them get a permit for driveway, so.
Okay, so after, when they do pour the driveway or put blacktop on it, they'll have to come in for a permit anyways, okay. So then that would be the way to check on it also.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I could make a motion to approve, I don't know what it's exactly called, a driveway
Conditional
extension.
use permit.
Conditional use.
Conditional use permit for 508 and 506 Van Dyke Avenue, with giving them 1 year to pave it.
Do you want to include in it as a 10-foot wide
10-foot.
front plane of the house? Because that's why we need the conditional use.
Right, it's, to place within the 10-foot, to place a 10-foot wide concrete or bituminous slab in the front plane of the house is what you're approving for 506 and/or 508. They may not do both.
Is there a second to that
You got
motion?
that, Adam?
I'll second that.
Yeah, I got it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this conditional use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I've already got one, but I'll take it. Our next item is to review chapter 22.20, erosion control and stormwater management, section 22.20.050. So this is the part of our code that requires stormwater management over, if your property has 7,500 square feet of impervious surface. There is a letter here from Alan from Public Works recommending that we increase that to, I don't know if it's a direct recommendation, but a comparison to other communities, to either half acre or 20,000 square feet is fairly typical for surrounding communities. And we are quite a bit more strict and restrictive at the 7,500 square feet. Any more to add?
Yep, I can, Alan puts together kind of a memo here and describes the reason for this chapter, including erosion control and stormwater management for development. Erosion control is pretty standard, pretty simple concept. Post-construction stormwater management becomes a little bit more comprehensive and expensive depending on the project and the overall development. The reason for it, obviously, as Alan discusses here, is to prevent stormwater from leaving the developed site faster than the pre-developed condition, and to provide the ability of suspended solids in the stormwater to settle before they reach the waters of the state. So the concept here, when we began looking at this, the standard in which that is in our code, I provided this section there, is 7,500 square feet. 7,500 square feet is rather small in comparison to other communities around us in terms of a disturbed area or creating an impervious surface of that size. The state of Wisconsin, from their perspective, requires stormwater management or an NOI permit at 1 acre of disturbance, which is, I think an acre is 43,000, right?
43,560.
43,560.
Yeah, I know
So
that one by heart.
the city's standard is 7,500 square feet, which is rather small. The balancing act here is, with that threshold, is the cost of the development to the developer to meet our standards, because what we have adopted in our standards is the state standard. So the state would say at 43,000 square feet, you have to do all of this stuff. We essentially say at 7,500 square feet, you have to do that. That is, in comparison to communities around us, a very strict standard. And we obviously understand the importance of stormwater management, erosion, from a watershed perspective. But ultimately, the balancing act comes down to what is the appropriate standard. And our recommendation is not a half acre, but 20,000 square feet would essentially trigger immediate requirements to adhere to the chapter. There is then, I believe, there's then the section 4 in there. Other land development activities, including access drives other than city to significantly increase downstream, blah, 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 are required to meet it. So we still have a clause in there on section 4 that's kind of the catch-all clause. So although we're looking at this and saying 20,000 square feet is the standard, we still have the ability during staff review and reviewing a project, if it is in an area or if it is a particular concern, to require them to follow the chapter. So there's always sort of that God clause that says, hey, we have concerns here, you should follow this. But really the intent is to, on some of the smaller projects, provide some flexibility for the developer to accomplish their development without having to immediately get into stormwater management, because that does add construction costs, engineering costs, design costs, everything. We've run into this recently with a smaller project, and it just kind of called a highlighted attention to it. And then Alan, in his previous communities that he served, looked at it and said, there is certainly a higher standard in communities around us that have similar situations and watershed issues. So we just wanted to bring it forward and discuss it, and if it's appropriate, change the 7,500 to say 20,000. Because if you go to a half acre, literally people will just shave off 100 square feet. And
And
like
do we
I'm
want to
under
put
a half.
just a dirt
yeah.
area instead of just the impervious surface?
We can put whatever we want in it.
Because sometimes they go out beyond where the building and the parking lots are gonna sit. It's like DNR, it's 1 acre what's disturbed. So say they got the stockpiles.
No, that's for the
Yeah.
erosion control or for the wastewater or stormwater management?
No, it kind of goes all together, because if you're disturbing that land, now that water is gonna be running in that area.
But this is
But
also.
if you res-
post-construction.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you restore that margin of it where you had
right.
dug up, restore it to lawn, or what have you.
The reality is you could have somebody on a small lot put a 5,000 square foot shop with a parking area and a driveway access, and they would be required to put in a stormwater retention pond.
I can think of a few houses in the city that the house is 3,000 square feet, the garage is 3,000 square feet, and they have a driveway. This would require them to have a retention pond, which I don't think makes sense in any community for a house to have a retention pond. Granted, it's a big house, but.
I mean, unless you wanted like a moat around the house.
Yeah.
And there certainly are stormwater and flooding concerns. That is a component of this. And if something is in a flood zone, or we know it's directly abutting a watershed area, or it's a wetland, that can trigger stormwater management. But that also triggers other things that they have to do. So they may have to, adhere to a different ordinance, even if they're in those areas. So somebody who's you know, in the middle of the city, that's redeveloping a lot in a commercial or an industrial site, you know, could very well end up having to spend tens of thousands of dollars to change something and for very little gain in the overall, you know, watershed and impact of everything. So that's why we brought it forward. Certainly open to any other suggestions or discussion.
Do you know why the 7,500 was there ever any talk or anything around
Blood?
that, or is that?
The only one that would remember.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was
Probably,
amended.
When we did the ordinance, probably.
Okay, so it's from the original.
Yeah, it's been in there for a long
Oh.
time.
2008.
Okay.
2008, I'm sure it was, you know, at that point in time, probably state of the art. And if other communities are not using that 75,
Right.
I don't have a problem. I think Adam makes a good point that subsection 4 does open the door for the building inspector in the city to say, but there's other factors that need to be considered. And that if ultimately only, you know, half an acre is impervious after it's all done, there were other concerns why you're requiring them to have retention pond or other stormwater management plans. So I don't think you're selling out here. I think you're just footnoting that we will get involved if it's more than an acre. And, you know, you made a good point. Is it impervious or disturbed land? That's probably a good question.
At the end of the day, I believe it's impervious because this is post-construction stormwater management. So they have their
Got it.
plan,
Got it?
they restore everything back to original after it, so that they stockpile dirt or they dig out an area more than what they need, but they restore it back, it doesn't matter. We don't care because that was the original, that wasn't in the
That'll still
footprint
soak
of
it.
the development.
That'll still soak
The
in.
new footprint of the development is what we're looking at, so all impervious surface would be what I would, because the erosion control is really meant to deal with the disturbed stuff, because the disturbed stuff rains and it runs off, and then you gotta have the silt fence and all that fun stuff.
And that's covered on the second page, the construction of 1- and 2-family residential buildings, under chapter, whatever.
Yeah, we gotta change that to SPS.
Whatever, yeah, but so we might as well do that at the same time.
Yep,
These activities must meet erosion control requirements. So we are kind of mixing two concepts here. This is about the stormwater management plan. So I do not have an objection to moving this forward.
And I certainly think the 20,000 square foot mark is reasonable. 1 acre or even the half acre is a lot.
Yeah, that's probably too much.
And judging from, like I said, their surrounding communities, looks like a good portion of them are 20,000.
I'm fine with it.
Would anyone like to make a motion to advance this to the council?
I'll make a motion to advance the proposed changes to 22-28-050 to the council.
With the 20,000.
With the $20,000.
Or 20,000.
20,000.
With the 20,000 square feet.
I'll second.
And is the other change a
Any
clerical?
other necessary,
We'll make any other necessary.
any other necessary.
Okay,
With
code changes.
yeah, because that whole number will change.
Sure.
okay. Is there a second? Did you
I-
second?
yeah.
You seconded, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding this to the council for approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I get forwarded to the council. Project updates and staff reports. Nothing?
Nope. College should be starting anytime. They've been waiting for rebar.
So they haven't broke ground yet? Wow.
I think they got a hole dug, but they're waiting for rebar to get here.
Okay, so broke ground but haven't started pouring.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're putting
In the
some
stadium?
They're putting some underground. Final is Thursday.
Wow.
Game on Saturday.
So is there a walkthrough?
They came a long ways.
Does somebody have to sign off on it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I gotta do the final on, give them occupancy on Thursday.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
It looks nice. I drive past it all the time, so.
I still think they should have stuck it in the hill.
Yes. But
You can't miss it coming down the hill now.
anything
But yeah,
from
the
you?
sign's supposed to go up this week and we had a little conflict with that one. I said, oh, you gotta have 10 feet clear underneath it. They're like, why? I said, because that's what the ordinance reads.
We probably will have a meeting next month for CSM, at least one. And then we may put on a couple other reviews like this as well to start kind of cleaning up some issues that we see or making development maybe a little bit easier or the process a little smoother. So we'll just bring those kind of like this one by one, if there's one that we've identified. So.
All right. Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 7:26.